How in the hell did this happen? How did I get here? I mean, who would have expected this? I guess we all expected it. It was like the weird dark cloud that was hanging over 2023. It was like, what's going to be the big movie? Can Aquaman 2 surprise? Are we going to get a big breakout sleeper? But then we were all thinking, Super fucking Mario Brothers movie. It can't be that simple, can it? Just adapt one of the biggest IPs ever. I mean, remember Detective Pikachu? That made 400 million. It wasn't quite the hit they needed it to be. And Pokemon's one of the biggest brands ever. Same thing with the Sonic movies. They did well. 320 million for the first one, and then I believe the sequel made 405 million. And yeah, they both had budgets of about 100 million. But we haven't had that video game movie that really broke out, that became like a Marvel movie, like a live action Disney adaptation, Star Wars, anything like that. Nothing's really broke out off the top of my head. Even films based on video games, like Wreck It Ralph, weren't the biggest hits compared to other movies. But here we have it, the biggest opening ever worldwide for an animated movie. This beat Frozen 2. This beat Disney. There's so much to break down here that I'm just going to say it. I don't give a shit about the other movies this week. Creed 3, whatever. Scream 6 made 100 million. Air came out. Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Movie cost 90 million. They spent like 50 million to market it. Amazon paid a bunch of money for this. I don't know what they were thinking. Why did they spend 200 million dollars for this movie? It makes no sense. Just insane. That's just Jeffrey Bezos burning money like the Joker. I don't know what message he's trying to send. Like support and consume companies that make someone better because we provide them a product to sell in a capitalist system. I suppose that's a message I want to see in a movie. Dungeons and Dragons disaster, 61% drop. What do? John Wick held better this week, 14.6 million. Should be able to outgross John Wick 3, but I don't think it will by much. Now let's get to Super Mario Brothers. This is the story of the week. Honestly, so far this is the box office story of the year. And I have a slight suspicion that this may continue. We're dealing with something unprecedented here in a lot of ways. Let us tell the story of Illumination and a little company called Nintendo. Nintendo's been really protective of these IPs now for quite a while. They weren't at some point back in the 90s. There was the Super Mario Super Show, the 1993 movie, lots of animated stuff. But for the most part in recent years, primarily, there's Pokemon. Nintendo stayed pretty close to the chest with its game releases, its consoles. It hasn't done anything too insane in recent years. And certainly we haven't been getting films based off Nintendo properties all the time. So that's another thing. Like, there hasn't been a Zelda show. And I've heard that they actually wanted to do one at one point, and they were just like, no, you guys can't do that. So Illumination at the same time does the Minions movie. And as their movie lines go on, you have like Secret Life of Pets and Sing and the Lorax and the Grinch and the Minions franchise. And all the movies make a bunch of money and have relatively low budgets and are pretty much hated by animation buffs. I'm not a fan of Illumination. I'll say it. Like, I don't like most Illumination movies. The first, Despicable Me, is an okay film, but I've seen some of their other films and I don't like them. But still, you can't deny the consistency. They have just been churning out like huge hit movies for years now. You combine that company that seems kind of unstoppable because they play to a certain mid tier, or just not really going like too extreme in directions, keeping this like mediocre balance for children and adults and a certain level of consistency and quality to like be broadly accepted. Not too dissimilar from Nintendo, honestly, except you're playing Nintendo games. So, okay, let's say this. These two companies meet each other in like a boardroom, like, "What's it, Mayata? Oh, Illumination." And they're like, "Yes, we would like to work with you too." Um, And then of course the "It's me," and then our friend Mario, here we go. He's about to fucking take over the world. One of the biggest icons ever as like a mascot, as an image, the iconography. But still, I think some people thought this would just do a little bit better than Sonic. Because it's like, hey, that was loyal to the game. The character model was redesigned. People really like those movies for the most part. Fans like those movies. And here we are now with an animated movie that doesn't have live action elements. I think a key here. And these two companies come together. They make a 90-minute long movie. They release it with great marketing, quite frankly. I don't think they could have done a better job at really selling that this is a thing. The people they cast, Chris Pratt, controversial, totally. Um, and I don't like the casting, but the thing is, he's Chris Pratt. Charlie Day, Jack Black, Seth Rogen. Everybody's been doing interviews and press for this. It's just, here we are. But still, this still even went over the biggest expectations. I mean, I thought this movie would be big. But, when Mario punches that box that lets the coins out, I didn't think it was a fucking box office. Motherfucker made some coin. 377 million? I mean, what the hell? 204 million domestic, 173 million international. That's a 5-day domestic total. Movie opened on Wednesday. Where does this go? I mean, this is a $1 billion movie. I mean, this would have to drop like huge, like 70% drops to not make $1 billion. This opened better than everything. This opened better than Ant-Man 3 or anything that's come out recently. I don't even know did Avatar 2 open this big? I don't even know if Avatar 2 opened this well. I think it was close to this. The word of mouth is through the roof, even though critics don't like the movie. It seems like audiences are eating it up. I guess it just makes sense. It's one of those simple things where you go, maybe a Mario movie just makes so much sense. It was bound to be something that was going to make $1 billion, and nobody ever really thought to just make it like this before. Makes you wonder about Barbie now. And if Barbie should have been an animated movie, maybe it would have sold better with the voice actors. Maybe that's the direction to go. But it makes me wonder now, is Barbie going to have a huge opening weekend? Maybe Barbie opens to 50 million now. I don't know, because it might just be the IP has to be that famous now to get people out to the theater. It has to look like the IP or be offering something where you're like, I know what that is. Also, this is just a major moment for Illumination, building up out of these years. This is like taking the torch from Disney. Disney hasn't had an animated film do really well at the box office in a long time. If you look at all the recent Disney films, none of them have performed like this in the animation front for the last couple years or so. So we're looking at that too. This is a moment where Illumination's really like making a statement um, in a big way that they have this IP, that they're working with Nintendo. Donkey Kong movie, Zelda movie, Metroid movie, Smash Brothers movie, Mario Kart movie. You have 10 movies that you can just make from this. And if the audience is built in this early on, even if it fluctuates, I don't see how this isn't like a huge deal. I mean, a lot of people are saying we're going to have the Nintendo Cinematic Universe. I'm not sure if that's what will happen. But as of right now, this is like, for video game movies, this is like a Force Awakens opening. This is like that kind of moment. Um, or this is a big deal, and it's hard to like undersell it and how big of a deal it is. I don't know why they didn't update the international John Wick 2. 4. That really pisses me off. Shazam, that's bloody pathetic. Mario, what the fuck? Yeah, so this is a big hit for Disney. Just at least in the public eye. I'm not saying as a company or anything, but from an outside perspective, there's no Disney movies in the top right now. And there's also no superhero movies in the top right now. It's John Wick, D&D, Air, Scream, His Only Son, Creed, and then Shazam's down there at 8 by his lonesome, like a stepchild. And then at the top you got Mario Brothers. So a little bit of Paramount, Lionsgate's in there with John Wick, and then Universal at the top. So this is all getting very interesting. I gotta say, like if I watched the Masters today, so if you equate this to sports competition, as we're going through the year, it looks like there's going to be an interesting competition between the studios, and what really wins out at the end of the year. Because Disney did have Avatar 2 last year, but I really think Mario has a shot of like becoming the highest grossing film of the year. Like, would it shock anybody if this makes like 1.2, 1.3 billion? It's possible. I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but it could. And that what else this year makes that kind of money? The Little Mermaid? Is The Little Mermaid gonna overperform now? I mean, I just can't think of a lot of films that are gonna make well over a billion this year. And it feels like Mario, I mean, it feels like this is the one that has everything going for it right now. Unless I'm missing some kind of something off the top of my head here, but it seems like that's where we're going. So very interesting. Um, yeah, huge win for Nintendo and Illumination, Universal. There's really no much more to say about it than that. It's just a huge win for everybody. It's hard to even give an analysis of it because at the end of the day, I think it just seems sort of obvious, and sometimes the obvious is the best, and I think people get a little too clever in their own heads and don't see the obvious sometimes when it comes to being successful, not just in movies, but in a lot of things in life. Could be very interesting and improved, um, if you just took the solution that didn't challenge you all the time. Okay, well, a happy Easter. I hope you guys all get lots of chocolate. Um, where do you think Mario's going to end up? Final gross, domestic, worldwide? Where are we going with this movie? What do you think this means for animation right now? Is it certain kind of and video game movies? That's the other thing they bring up. Last of Us, the Sonic movies, video game movies in a weird transition, early Cocoon, Butterfly phase, and then comic book movies, superhero movies, seeming like they're kind of having a bit of a tampering down in popularity. That's all very interesting too. Makes you wonder if we're in the era of video game, but it's too early to say. It's way too early to say, but it makes you wonder in a few years. You're like, is there going to be video game movies are the big thing? Or is this just a one off because it's such a big property? Because nothing is really bigger than Mario. But I do think a Grand Theft Auto movie would make money. I do think there's other like franchises that have sold enough games and are well known that if you put the name on it, it could make a lot of money. But it would depend on execution. And with Mario, you have the benefit of you can just say, let's do an animated movie, and that's really been Nintendo's brilliance throughout the years in a lot of ways. Besides some good game mechanics and level design, is they always kind of keep this animated, hyper realistic but very stylized art direction. It's actually not. It's hyper realized stylistically, not hyper realistic. They go against realistic. They've kept a lot of their 16-bit charm, throughout the years, and it's kind of sort of it still has this elegance to it, and sharpness to it, and it's clever too. You can tell they don't try too hard, but it's rather clever. It is what kept these franchises like Pokemon and Zelda and Mario so relevant, and their spin-off games like Mario Kart or Smash Brothers, in circulation for so long, and kept their value up too, which has kept Nintendo's brand at a good level, where they keep surprising us with how they find a new gimmick, even though they're not really pushing the boundaries as much as you would hope they would. But it's hard to hate Nintendo at the same time. Like, who doesn't like playing the Switch or anything? Who didn't like playing a Game Boy? But with this, it's like, damn. And the Universal theme parks, the Nintendo World, that's another thing. It's from Disney. Universal is opening up a new park. It's going to be their third. Disney World has four. Universal's now going to have three. And I think this Nintendo Universal deal, has been in talks for a long time, and I think they've been setting on a lot of things for a long time. And I think we're seeing the results of some of it, honestly. And I think they sort of waited for the culture to be in the right place for it, and I think it is. Anyway, please subscribe, please like and comment. Thank you for watching, and that's it.